time on whatever day it was. So if you take, you're gonna, and this worked really well when we tried it first time round. So instead of me just giving out, something, you're gonna create your own. So please take some pencils, pastels, and a paper. The paper is there, pencils are there. Well, and get something to lean on. So if you have a folder or your yoga first manual or something, grab that.
Oh, so cute.
Thank you.
Oh, no, she didn't give to me. No, I'm just
No, I
with
just
them.
shared.
We'll share.
We can share. I don't think you'll fight over that. Yeah.
7.
You went to Awesome so she doesn't feel bad.
Thank you.
can just
Thank you, my
pass
love.
it. There you go. Okay, I think everyone's good.
So Valeria, you go with this one, with this, this
Yeah, 750. I put 3. So I
So
think we
one
can
blank
leave
piece
it
of
4.
paper per
No,
person.
I want to leave earlier. I was actually thinking 2:30
One
because they have a
piece of
huge
paper
duty free
per person.
airport also. I want to take a look at
No, I
it.
don't want to do that.
No, I mean, it's okay. It's,
No, I think I'll leave max at
One
3 p.m.
piece of
okay.
paper
I'll put 2:30.
per person.
How
Here, give me those.
Why don't have You're too lazy to get up?
No, it wasn't registered.
Now you're
She's
just
like,
looking.
oh, give me that. I'll do it.
Already.
Yeah, everyone has. Go sit down.
Just sit down. Just sit down.
May I?
Oh, that's it.
Excusez-moi. Oh, sasalin me.
Wait, wait. I like that. Just wait.
Drink your coffee.
Wake up. So, will anyone be in Nilaya House in his coming week?
Oh, you still stay.
And
where?
Nilaya House in Dubai. Anyone? You? Okay, maybe.
I think I've been one.
Because I keep asking Emmy to take these certificates to Nilaya House and he keeps not doing it and it's about 2 months.
Oh, do you need them to go to Kenya? Yeah, I can do these.
Thank you so much, Marisa.
No problem. I'm in and out of there for
Thank
various
you. Emmy's failed to do it approximately 3 times now, so
They're now
I'm
the
kind of giving up.
largest Iyengar studio in Dubai, so I shall be
Yeah.
transferring my allegiance
Yo.
Okay.
there.
It's
saw
great.
The
It's
pictures.
great how it's evolving. Huh?
Yeah.
Right. You'll have your materials and something to. Does everyone have something to put under the paper?
Block.
You have one. I've got one manual
Yeah.
here.
I think I have to use 2 blocks.
This, you can borrow this manual. And I've got one folder. And then someone got this cup. Someone can use this to lean on as well if you wanna lean on. Take this.
Are we gonna borrow that?
Because you're gonna need something flat under that paper because you're gonna create something. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do is create something that looks maybe that, but this we'll also enhance this with hatha yoga added into the mix because none of these have yet hatha yoga. So this one, we had a quick look at this one. That was Vanessa's version, Willow's version of the cyclical wisdom chart. This is from a lady whose chart I got from the internet, which is kind of nice, beautiful one. And then for those of you who have read Wild Powers, quite a few people, then you'll recognise this one from Wild Power as well. So this is also super cool. And we'll try to create your own version of this, alright? So the first thing you need to do on the chart is to divide it into the 4 seasons. So spring, summer, autumn and winter.
Anyhow design, right? Flower.
So spring, summer, autumn, winter. Okay. So we're going to consider, different aspects of this. So we're going to consider the wider world, the outer world. So the actual moon, the real moon cycle in the sky. The moon. We'll consider the life stages, so stages of a woman's life, and also the inner seasons, so the menstrual cycle. So all of the we're putting all of the layers onto it, and then also the Hatha Yoga layer added into the mix. Okay. Okay. So first of all, let's add in the moon cycle. So if you maybe you want to write spring, summer, autumn and winter on it first. You can decide what it looks like, how it's designed, you've got all these different options. Maybe also you might want to do some kind of little picture representing the seasons, or you can just decorate the words spring, summer, autumn, winter to start with. Vanessa's got the words in a little band. This lady put the words, put some flower kind of imagery,
Trees and flowers.
so she's got she's decided to use the tree imagery. So it's the tree with the leaves falling, the bare tree, the tree with the blossom, and the tree with the fruit. That could work for you if you want to do that. Right. So, stage 1. I'll give you a little bit of time for each stage. Yeah, so you can kind of, it's kind of really up to you how you choose to place them, but there might be
You can do it like this.
it could be more than, it's more than, it basically works however you do it, unless you put spring, autumn, obviously not.
Yeah.
It should be one after
Try
the
what
other.
kind of that one would flow.
Yeah, that could work.
Now we can come back to autumn.
But you could have spring with summer. You could have it in a different order. Doesn't really matter. Sort of circle in the end.
It's cold.
Okay. Add in features. Okay. So. And when you've done that, at this point we'll add in the real moon in the traditional way. So the traditional winter is the full moon, okay, and the traditional summer is the new moon. Okay, you can do it like that. So, in other words, what we were talking. I might have just said that the wrong way around. Not on purpose. I'll describe it in a different way to clear it up. So, remember we talked about how back in the day in the tribal societies that women would tend to bleed in the dark moon. Yeah. So that dark moon means new moon, not full moon.
Which means winter.
Which means winter. Yeah. I just. occasionally I say.
So dark moon.
Summer is full moon.
Yeah.
Summer
Summer full moon.
Occasionally I say
Winter
the
is
opposite
new moon,
version.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
New moon.
New moon, winter, crone leading.
Yeah.
Which one?
And you know, it's not just, you know, this is not, we're not imposing structure on you. We're just talking about, you know, traditional, commonly accepted beliefs about how things work. Okay.
Can I share my pen?
So I'll just write that on the board in case there's like any confusion about what the dark moon means. Should I say it's just supposed to mean? Okay.
The waxing moon from the left and the waning moon from the right. Waxing is when it's getting big and waning and
Yeah, we'll just put the moon, we're going to put moon terminology up there for the astrologically challenged. Okay.
Join with
That's
join.
me.
It's okay, we'll support you through this process. So, dark moon. Dark moon means when there's no light coming from the moon. So that's new moon, right?
How do you draw that? You just draw a circle and you color it black.
There you go. By accident.
This is more of a visual learner, audio visual learner activity. All right. And then, so what does waxing moon mean?
Getting bigger, right?
Yeah.
The dark moon
Getting,
going to the full moon.
yeah. So getting bigger. But just make it very clear.
You know, like the symbol, is it waxing from the left or is it waxing from the right?
Okay, so obviously the waning moon. That's the official terminology for the moon when it's getting smaller. Yeah, which it isn't doing.
It's always there.
From the point of view of standing on planet Earth. Okay. So this works. So you can draw little moons in your. So you can draw your moons onto the different seasons.
Because that's a new moon, that's when it's split. So it waxes
So
from
for
the
example,
right.
in Vanessa's one, in her mother, in her peak summer, there's a white circle, and then her moon opposite is obviously the black circle, and then between the two, the waxing moon and the waning moon. Okay. You can draw that. Okay, so you've got that. All right. So the next section.
Okay, so full moon. Autumn is which one?
If you just want to write the words full moon, new moon,
Winter is the
waxing
new
moon, and
moon.
waning moon, and not draw
Winter
pictures,
is-
that's also an option.
Winter
This
is
is what
new
she
moon.
does. She just writes. She writes full moon, new moon, waxing moon, waning moon instead of drawing little circles and stuff. So that's
I make
also
it wrong.
an
I
option.
have to put this one
Okay.
funny me.
All right. So
That's why. So this is should be winter, right?
yeah. So I like the yellow. That's the yellow bit. That makes more sense to me. Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
And
That's,
this
that's
should be
the
autumn.
other way around.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and in autumn
It's like
is
what?
All right. So the next thing you can add to your
No,
picture
autumn.
is
Autumn is just like
the
a
life
between that
stages.
the waning.
So life stage wise for a woman, what is your spring? What can you add in there?
Like I just use the cycle that
No, we're talking about your life cycle.
Maiden.
Maiden. So maiden is your spring. So what age is maiden?
definitely not made.
Well, so I mean, you can decide, but you know, but you get the idea that maiden is your young girl, your early adulthood as well can be your maiden. So there's,
So roughly 0 to 25.
Oh no.
Depending on the person.
yeah, so you can I don't know what you can choose if you want to add numbers into it because that's kind of that's your interpretation, but it's your young woman stage, you know, the spring stage, the fresh stage. The stage where you are not worried about wrinkles. That one.
Or stretch marks.
Youth. So, you know, for example, Brianna is in her spring, right? She's the maiden. You know, and maybe anyone here feel like they're in their spring? Not me.
Are you talking about brain wise? Because I'm 40, but I feel like.
Okay, well, you can still.
Two.
Yeah,
I
okay.
feel like-
So you're in your spring. Still in that stage of life. So it kind of depends on your life trajectory, you know, what you. Okay, and then we've got the summer. So summer, the word could be mother. Summer. It's when you're in the stage of life where you are mothering people, projects, full responsibility, working, creating, or both. Mother stage, summer stage. And again, you know, like you want to talk about age, so yeah, I mean, you know, not, I had a look at, I was quite interested, because I got into like genealogy and I was looking at what age all my ancestors had their children. I thought that would be super interesting, and yeah, only one of my ancestors had a child after they were 40 in the whole lineage. So, you know, mother used to mean, I guess, something slightly different to now, and you know, working life is only relatively new for women. And, so I think mother kind of extends a bit later than it used to for the past generation.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, and then autumn in your life stage as a woman. Usually we put that with your perimenopause and your menopause, especially the transition, the perimenopause is the definite autumn, the shedding of leaves, getting rid of all the stuff you don't want anymore. Transition from mother to wise woman. Other names for wise woman: enchantress. That's another way of putting it. And then winter. So, what is your winter life stage? Too busy doing. So, what was the word that? Do you remember the word that we used the other day to describe winter? Crone. Yeah. So, winter is the crone. Winter is our elder years, our wisdom years.
Wisdom.
Crone means crown. Corona. Makes sense. It's Spanish, isn't it? I don't know what languages you guys have any.
How to spell clone?
CRONE.
CRONE.
Okay.
Your crown
Thank you.
in your wisdom. Okay, so you've got that part done. Okay. So let's go beyond the life stages and we'll go into the menstrual cycle. and the stages of the menstrual cycle. So remember, just so we can write down what day. So if you look at a sort of stereotype 28-day cycle, then day 1 to day 3 stroke 4 stroke 5, that is your crone. So that's your winter. So that means like when the first day of bleeding is called day 1 in this world. Okay. And then all the time you're in the red blood, you are crone, you are winter. Okay? So, you know, classic would be days 1 to 5. Does that make sense? And then as soon as you transition into the spotting, the less, you know, there's no red blood anymore, you come into the brown, you're leaving, it's almost, the flow is done. Then at that point, that day, is your spring. Okay, your transition into spring. Okay, it's the turn from one season to another. And if you look at, you know, you want to do the kind of Western model of like which they apply to pregnancy and all the other stuff, then that would be like day 6 to 11 in, you know, this sort of stereotype cycle. Okay, so it's all the days after spotting
The colors
up
tend to be
until
brown each.
the transition to ovulation. Okay, so it's all of those days between the bleeding and the ovulation is called maiden.
So 6 to 11.
So day 6 to 11 if you want to have numbers. Okay. Alright. So our summer, something like day 12 to day 21, 22. Roughly, you know, so the numbers are all very relative. Like, you know, this lady's version of the numbers is completely different to Vanessa's version of the numbers.
And the red square numbers are again a little different.
Unless, so, you know, this is all, you know,
It's best to check yourself.
Yeah.
so I'm not a big fan on putting, you know, putting it in numbers, but you, just so we get some clarity on it. Okay, so that's mother stage, and this summer is ovulation. So from that point of view. Okay. So let's imagining that our egg is not fertilized by a sperm on this particular month. We then enter autumn, and autumn for, you know, is day 22 to day 28 in this classic stereotype cycle. So, and this is when progesterone is the dominant hormone. So you might want to write that down as well. Progesterone. So, okay. Whereas the spring and summer hormone that influence the cycle is called what?
Estrogen?
Yeah, estrogen,
Estrogen.
estrogen. So the hormonal life of one side of the chart is completely different to the other side of the chart. One is driven by estrogen and one is driven by progesterone.
This is my S, so we look
that's the
there.
hormonal part. Okay.
So progesterone would be autumn and winter,
The
and
summer.
summer
Yeah.
and spring.
Yeah, yeah. So, if you want to add in this understanding,
Sorry
I
for
think
my
it's
writing.
quite important. Okay.
No.
You read this look more
If you're not
organized. Be
ready
like,
for that, still doing hormones.
that.
Okay.
More.
So, in the one way of thinking about the menstrual cycle is that the inner spring and the inner summer are the via positiva. Via, like the way, the via, like, you know, kind of Spanish or whatever. Via positiva is inner spring and inner summer, and then via negativa is autumn and winter.
Inner negativity.
Inner positiva, via, they call it via positiva and via negativa.
Which means what?
Via is it in Italian? It's a way.
Yeah,
road.
via.
Yeah, it's like the energy of the two different halves of the cycle are completely different. So the energy of spring and summer
So spring and
are
summer.
more estrogen driven, more uplifting, more quote unquote positive by nature, whereas the energy of the via negativa are more reflective in nature. They are more I mean, I don't want to go, the word negative doesn't really get there, but it's more internal. Okay? Yeah, and you can add it.
So the via positiva basically is the time that you spend outside. If you imagine a house, and on the via positiva you're outgoing, you want to spend time outside, you want to be seen, you want to show yourself. And the via negativa is when you prepare to come back for your bleed. So you go inside, yourself, you slow down a little bit. It's also the feminine and the masculine. The via positiva has
the yin
all
and
the
yang,
masculine attributes, and the negativa is all the feminine attributes.
Okay, so you can also include that on your chart, you know, like one side is called the via negativa, okay? And, you know, one thing which is really, really critical to the Wild School and Alexandra Pope and Sajani's understanding of the system, and it's really what I kind of found really, really exciting in Wild Power, is that and I kind of related to it in the same sense that, like, all the stages of in birthing, there's all these different stages. Okay, so there's like the stage where your kind of body's warming up, and it's like called the first stage of labour. That's the stage where they send you home if you go to the hospital, because it's just like the warm up. And then you go into stage 2, which is active labour, and then you know about it. And then there's like this transition between, I don't know, it's a really, really, really interesting phenomena. Like, I don't know, have you guys watched like that hospital drama called One Born Every Minute? It's really, because you see loads and loads and loads of people having babies, basically. And then, like the moment where usually in that documentary, which doesn't happen if they've had all the lovely prenatal yoga and awesomes, you know, support and all the rest of it, that they'll just shout, "I can't do it," at the top of their voice. Okay, so for women, there's, you know, it's like in every cycle there's transition, and literally in birth that's called the transition period. And also physiologically, crazy things happen, like your sacrum changes shape. You can see a blue line running to your anus. You know, all these crazy things are going on. You know, it's like, and then after that, the birthing. So, but the menstrual cycle, I kind of like had my kind of aha moment when I realised that the menstrual cycle is the same. It has like transition periods, you know, like, and they call it transition days in the Wild Power system. So my main discovery was that there's something called the chamber of separation, really, and this is your transition from autumn into winter, and it's basically and it's really, really, really clear, because it's like you can't handle anything anymore, and you just want your kids or whoever's annoying you, your boss or your clients, just to go away. You know, it's like you have to shut down. Your body, your mind, your soul is telling you to shut down. It's like a really clear moment. And before that transition from autumn to winter, there's a really mad thing where you go totally OCD. And that I never realised until this year.
Yeah.
And you start tidying up weird parts of your house, sweeping little back. You start like doing really crazy things. Like you go into your food cupboards and you like go through the entire thing. You know, it's like you do spring. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But I do this every month.
You basically start digging around in your cupboards, cleaning up, doing the most ridiculous stuff. You know, and it's literally part of your hormonal life. So You know, the things that
So
you...
it's normal.
It's normal.
Basically, like, you never knew that this kind of stuff was normal. until I
Even
was
if
like-
you're not pregnant.
No, it's not about being
It's a
pregnant.
transition.
like
between
that's
autumn
Every
and
month
into
it
winter.
happens.
Ah, okay. I thought it was.
It's
Sorry.
the transition between your
okay.
autumn, so your progesterone stage where everything is
Okay,
getting
now I
ready to
understand.
bleed. You're getting ready to bleed, and then there's all these weird things that happen, and then you bleed. And if you completely blank it, you don't notice it because no one's told you.
I
about-
thought I'm just OCD by
No.
nature.
So this is you
Yeah,
can put
kind
a
of.
little. There's a little
It's
chamber.
by nature.
It's called the chamber of separation, where you have to just say no to the world. Say no to the world. Okay.
Would that be like 2-3 days before the bleed, would you say?
I think it's all kind of relative. I think it's all kind of relative. But yeah, like
Yeah.
2 days, 1 day. What did Alexandra say?
Yeah, it's a few days. I
We'll do it.
personally get it, like, I do feel it. I do feel the pull to do it without really having to do it now. But then the next weekend, I make sure that I clean my whole apartment because it needs to be clean for when I bleed. And it needs to be clean. And as you said, I do clean things that I normally never clean.
Anyway, all the things that you just didn't even realise
Yeah.
were completely normal.
It's in this whole. It's one day in this whole week before you bleed.
Okay. So that's like the that if you can put that between autumn and winter, and it's called a chamber of separation. So say no to the world. You can write it down. Say no to the world. And this is also in your life stage, perimenopause. Say no to the world. No, sorry. So makes sense, right? Okay. And then I'll point you at this stage. I'm not going to go too much into this because this is, this is really another course.
Is there a chamber of separation between the spring and the summer?
So let's sort of. I'm kind of starting at that point, and we'll
Okay.
kind of get to that. So I'll just break down inner winter into its stages according, to the understanding in Wild Power and Alexandra Pope and Mr. Johnny and how that, because it's just genius. So you have this chamber of separation, and then inner winter is broken down into 5. So this is our bleeding time. So inner winter, when we bleed, is stage 1, separation. So you have to run away from the kids, or the work, or the boss, or the whatever it's annoying you. Okay. You do tend to get me talking because this is my life stage. So that's obviously what I'm in right now.
So this is the first stage of inner winter.
That's the first
like
stage
first.
of bleeding is in winter, is separation. Number 2 stage is called surrender. So you just have to let it all go. Literally, the blood. Let it go. Otherwise, it's not gonna. What are you gonna do? Hold it in.
Alexandra calls that chamber the big fucking void.
What's that?
The big fucking void.
The big fucking void. Okay, so let's have that on camera. So, surrender. You just basically, and this is the chamber. If you're trying to do a 14-hour day, you ain't in the chamber of surrender. That's to be honest, are you? So
Let it go.
this is
Run
the
away from
big
kids.
deal for women.
This is the
Okay, and
first
this,
Let it-
we need
this
to
is
know this
first.
before we
First is
layer on
something
Hatha Yoga, because it's not going to make it. It's going to make more sense, isn't it? So then we get renewal. Our 3rd stage is renewal, and it makes sense, doesn't it? So what's our body doing? It's releasing, and then it's our potentiality for regeneration. So renewal is the next stage, and the 4th stage is vision. Okay, so this is the spiritual nature of menstruation. So you have a direct line to God. You're plugged in. This is your, and if you have enabled the process, your spiritual access is enhanced. This is like your free, direct plug-in to God. It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen that. This is kind of a crazy analogy, but there's a movie called Brigadoon, and every 200 years, this portal opens, and then you can step through it and enter this weird little world where they're all dancing around doing a weird version of ballet, or I don't know what. Like, and it's a crazy movie, man. But it's like the menstrual phase. It just gives you that opportunity, right, to step through into another way of being. So that's the visionary stage, and then the final stage is clarity and direction. So this is here. They've also called it cherish yourself. And inner winter, I'm going to get you to just listen for a moment. So enter the void, inner focus, stillness, purify, rest, receive, ecstasy, visioning, and receiving direction. So those are all inner winter concepts, you know? It's like it's spiritual ecstasy, you know? It's not the inner summer version of it. Okay. All right. So as you move into spring, they have words like play, risk, explore possibilities, initiate, and also the idea that maybe as you step into that spring, that you move tenderly, that you don't suddenly chuck yourself back into like the 18-hour day. Okay, so that transition period it needs a little bit of respect. You know, you don't just come out of your red tent and then go into your, go into your pole dancing studio. You know, it's still not ready. Okay. And and this attitude is saying yes. Okay, so it's instead of saying no, now you're ready to say yes. So saying yes to something. Okay. So then you have the transition into ovulation, and a lot of people will know because you can feel the egg release, right? And some people some people can feel what side it's coming. Does anyone feel which side there? You feel that? You feel if it's your left ovary, and maybe that's something you can tune into. See how you can feel if that's still part of your life. So then there's that transition between spring and summer, the actual release of the egg traveling down. And a lot of people, you might want to write down the word for that transition. From a physical point of view, we use the German word, which is middle pain. So middle Milch, we call it middle Milch.
I don't know, I never heard of it.
So it's got technically it's called middle pain, middle Milch, and some people almost feel like they're having a period. You know, it's like that painful.
I feel that.
You feel quite intensely that. So it's middle pain, and it might be quite intense. So that I won't write it on the board because I can't spell it. You can just call it middle pain. Okay. So that's the ovulation. Okay, and the transition, which you may feel that, you may have some discomfort. And then inner summer is declaring yourself. You're in the flow, you're magnetizing, it's the time of pleasure, the time of generosity. So everything is possible at that time. And we talked about the magnetism of a woman in her summer stage. Okay. All right. So then I've also been really observing my transition from summer to autumn, and it's like the mood changes. And like I really notice it in Bali because I generally drive around going, oh, lovely flowers, It's like you're driving down the same road, and so I drive around, oh, lovely flower, oh, a frangipani just fell on my head, oh, lovely shape of the leaves, oh, there's a cute little dog, and then one day you're like, there's a load of fucking rubbish on this road. When are they going to clean it up? you know, and like, you know, and do you know what I mean? It's the same road, but suddenly, everything changes, and it's like you kind of like, it's like literally like, you know, you start to see the world through a different colour. You know, you change the colour of the glasses completely. So you're looking through. They call it like the rose tinted glasses. It's kind of like
Kitty wants a muffin.
Yeah.
Rose. So I don't know what colour we're going to call the Inner Autumn, but it's not rose. It's a little bit, you know, darker. Yeah, it's more the kind of, you know, black. It's more the black, you know, the kind of like the black tinge, you know, of the sunglasses. You know. So, and then we ride through Inner Autumn, meeting the critic. You meet the critic. The inner voice is quite active. So you are invited to edit your life. So the inner critic will give you some messages about, you know, from, you know, the extreme version is, oh, you know, why am I here? My life is a complete mess. You know, I hate my husband. I need a divorce. Or, you know, like, you know, why am I living in
Thank
Dubai?
God we didn't go that far.
Why am I working as a lawyer? And maybe some of that is relevant, right? Maybe some of it, you know, or maybe it's just, you know, husband's alright, just being, you know, a bit of a bad maid. You know? So, you know, all the messages come through, and it's your choice then to, you know, digest and edit that. Okay.
Hey.
Stop it. And also another important concept here is holding the tension. Okay. And I don't know, Cass, did you want to say a bit? They must have talked a lot about holding the tension, because it's quite a complex topic.
Yeah, it's a lot to do with the inner critic, because the inner critic kind of is the one that creates the tension. And because we're so sharp, we see everything so clear, but we are also not just very critical with us, we're critical with everyone and everything around us. And I think the idea of holding the tension is also what the word calls, in English it's PMT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just sitting with that and saying, it's okay that I feel like that. I'm not going nuts, and I'm not a bad person, and I'm also not crazy, and I'm also not overreacting, because we need this sharpness to see where the problems are. But at this time we also tend to attend these problems very harshly. So maybe it's the time to identify the issues and then just sit with them, because you don't need to solve them right now.
So,
And that's holding the tension.
yeah, and this is very different to what we're sold, which is called PMT, which is like, you're just crazy, you're just completely off it, and you need to fix it. You know, like it's like there's some kind of
Stop being this way.
stop being a complete nutcase.
Yeah.
You know, you're a witch. You know, you're a crazy bitch. You know, so yeah, you know, in this, it's a re-understanding of Inner Autumn, which I think Inner Autumn gets the worst rap. Really, it's the one we have almost. I feel a lot of people have the most problems with. I mean, when on the day where we stood in a circle and I said, you know, stand in the part of, I mean, who stood in Inner Autumn? Okay, so, but you guys, you know, it's not a popular one, but, you know, it's like, I think when you do more of the work, then you start to realise it's not so bad actually, and, you know, it's potentially, this is the good stuff, you know? It's like how you know, the goddesses, you know, it's like how you can make friends with Kali actually. She's kind of, you know, she's the mother, you know, she's the. So it starts to seem more appealing. Okay, so, and then we're back to, and then we hit saying no to the world again, and this chamber of separation. Once we come through the inner critic, and then it's like, back into our cave, into our red tent, into our inner winter. Okay? And then the relationship between each stage, before we talk about the yoga side of it, the relationship between each side mirrors. So if you haven't respected your inner winter, what will show up is maybe somewhere later in the cycle that will show up. Yeah. So it kind of all mirrors each other. So how you deal with winter, that will have a lot of bearing on how you experience the rest of the month. So if you have I remember the time when I had I went to Uma's retreat, and we spent 2 weeks talking about all this stuff, and then I had my moon time during the retreat, and then I could really respect it and honor it, and I didn't have any children running around, I didn't have anyone telling me what to do, I had no work, nothing. And then I really was able to just spend all that time I needed by myself. And then, it showed up in the inner spring and the inner summer and in the autumn. It kind of made everything easier. Okay, so and when you don't have time to do that, when you're in a winter and you just have to chug on, that's when things start getting messy, and you can see how it kind of spirals and spirals and spirals until we're ending up facing massive problems. So does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So now we kind of are at the stage where we've talked quite a lot about this menstruality consciousness, life stages and stuff. So now we can talk about yoga. Okay, hatha yoga, so pranayama, asana. And how does this fit into our inner seasons as a woman, or our life seasons as a woman? What does this mean? Okay, so I'm going to put it out there to you to stop listening to me for a minute and have a bit of a chat. So let's think about some concrete ideas for each season. So how about in a winter? Give me one pranayama or one asana that really fits with inner winter.
Savasana.
Child's pose is beautiful.
Ujjayi breath.
So for example, and the restorative child's pose, I would say 20 minutes is a good time. Yeah, restorative child's pose is on a bolster.
It's about Brahmari, because you're actually doing this. And you're going inside.
And
so that's an example for winter restorative. But you might reflect on this information and come up with some ideas for each season. Okay, so that's the task. All right. Think about all kinds of hatha yoga practices or any other yoga practices.
Or even reflect on, if those of you that have a self-practice, reflect on how your self-practice, some things, when does the handstand, when is the best handstand? When do you not feel like, all of this. Just reflect on your own experience with hatha yoga as well.
So there's a good chat you can have now, and then we'll after you've had that chat, we'll step in and we'll do a group. We'll have
groups of 3. Okay, so I'm going to group you. 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Mama.
1, 2, 3.
Hey, mama.
Hey, 1, 2, 3.
Hey, mama.
And then
So just talk all like the